Hi, Arcfieldweather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday, May the 27th, back from a vacation and a lot to talk about this morning. First of all, we're nearing the end of the month of May and we're just about into the official tropical season for the Atlantic Basin, which officially is designated as running from June 1st to December 1st. Of course, those are artificial beginning and end dates, but generally the correct time period. You can have a tropical system before June, certainly, and even after December 1st. We'll kind of reflect upon some of the factors involved, specifically related to the sea surface temperatures across the Atlantic and the Pacific as we head into tropical season. In addition to that, there's plenty of rain coming to the Mid-Atlantic region. We've had several rain events, beneficial rain events in the Mid-Atlantic region during the past few weeks. Certainly has alleviated any drought conditions that may have existed before that point in time, and it looks like perhaps another inch of rain coming to places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City from late tonight through the day on Wednesday and through Wednesday night. Even a few more showers can fall in the Mid-Atlantic region later Thursday and Friday. Temperatures remaining cooler than normal right through the end of the week in the Mid-Atlantic region. Now, speaking of cooler than normal conditions, we continue to have this influx of colder than normal air masses for this time of the year into the U.S. And because of that, we continue to have some severe weather possibilities down the road here. It looks like we'll have a possibility of strong to severe thunderstorms over the next couple of days across the deep south. Let's start off with a look at the latest sea surface temperature anomalies. This is from the Canadian Met Center here, and you can see a lot of white on the map across the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean. White on this particular map represents nearly normal water temperatures here, and that is indeed the theme here. It kind of has been the theme over the past couple of months, led us into our tropical outlook as being nearly neutral, nearly normal for the upcoming tropical season, and a large part of that is because temperatures are nearly normal in some of these important breeding ground areas. For example, the Atlantic Basin here, we have a little bit of colder than normal conditions in the central tropical Atlantic, but largely white showing up here, nearly normal conditions here. Now, you get closer to the coast, and this is kind of important here, the Gulf of Mexico and off the southeast U.S. coastline, there is some warmer than normal water. And last year it talked about the likelihood for the predominant pattern to be Gulf of Mexico tropical system. This year I think it kind of shifts a little bit to the east, maybe the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and then up along the Atlantic seaboard. We haven't had a direct hit from a hurricane in New England for many, many years now. I believe it was the early 1990s. And that is on the table this year. Certainly there can be a hurricane hit along the eastern seaboard sometime later this summer. That includes that region from the Outer Banks all the way up to the New England coastline. But yes, there is some warmer than normal water, southwestern Atlantic, Gulf of Mexico. Meanwhile, the equatorial part of the Pacific Ocean, this line right here represents the 0-degree latitude, nearly neutral. We had La Nina conditions a year ago, nearly neutral, maybe a tad on the La Nina side expected for the upcoming tropical season here, but a lot of areas nearly normal water temperatures as we are about to embark on the tropical season. Now, take a look at the change, however, in the last year, a dramatic drop-off in temperatures. For example, let's focus in right here on the breeding ground area of the Atlantic Ocean right here, and go back to a year ago. Dramatically cooler right now. This is a year ago, and not only the Atlantic Ocean has cooled off, but notice some warmer than normal conditions out across the Central Pacific, even the Indian Ocean here a year ago, and you go back to the current conditions, all three of those areas have cooled off dramatically, and especially the Atlantic Ocean here. Again, 1 year ago, much warmer than normal conditions dominating the scene here, also out in the Central Pacific and Indian Ocean. But right now, all dropped off dramatically. That will play an important role here in the upcoming tropical season, and we'll continue to monitor this rather amazing drop-off in temperatures in some of the water areas here, especially the Atlantic Basin here in the last year. Now, in terms of what lies ahead for sea surface temperatures, this is a compilation of forecast models here. We've shown this map, this kind of a plot here periodically. This line right here represents neutral conditions as we move forward. We move forward in rolling 3-month averages. For example, June, July, August, right here. August, September, October, right here. And for the most part, these models here are right near that neutral line, maybe a tad below it. The thick green line here represents the average of the statistical computer forecast models, and the red right nearby represents the average of what we call dynamical computer forecast models. The bottom line here, most of these models tend to favor the idea of neutral, maybe a tad below normal temperatures, a slight weak La Nina conditions here, but for the most part, I'm sticking with the idea of nearly neutral conditions here, nearly normal water temperatures. And this is for the Pacific Ocean, by the way, the central equatorial part of the Pacific Ocean here, and similar conditions in much of the Atlantic Basin, nearly neutral conditions for the next couple of months. Well, I talked about the fact that there's another beneficial rainfall event coming to the Mid-Atlantic region. We've talked about how we've been alleviating drought conditions in the eastern U.S. over the last several weeks. That pattern looks like it'll continue at least into the month of June here. This is where we stand right now across much of the eastern states in terms of the drought conditions here. These are longer-term results here, and this is much better than it appeared just a few weeks ago. And again, we have another beneficial rainfall event coming right to this area right here. So again, I think we'll continue to alleviate the drought conditions in the eastern U.S. over the next couple of weeks here. Now, this is the area where there can be kind of a hot and dry summer out here in the central and northern plains especially. Fortunately, much of the southern plains and especially eastern Texas has received a lot of rainfall over the last few weeks. That's a good thing as we head into that June, July, August time period. Meanwhile, out across the southwestern desert, a lot of drought conditions exist, and we'll have to wait until we get monsoonal rainfall out in that part of the nation to try to alleviate those drought conditions. And in fact, we will get some monsoonal type afternoon and evening thunderstorms, especially during the second half of the summer season in the southwestern U.S. Now, we've also talked about the continuation of some colder than normal air masses making their way into the U.S. from Canada or the eastern Pacific Ocean. That continues the chance for severe weather. This is the outlook for later today and tonight, and really much the same area for tomorrow into tomorrow night, namely the deep south from Texas to the Carolinas. There can be some strong to severe thunderstorm activity later today, tonight, and again later tomorrow and tomorrow night. And again, this is all due to the fact that we continue to have these colder than normal air masses dropping into the U.S. from Canada or moving eastward from a still quite chilly eastern Pacific Ocean. Well, it's in fact, let's take a look here at the temperature pattern here. These are the rolling 5-day averages of the 850 millibar temperatures. Right now, we're beginning off with the current 5-day period. A lot of colder than normal conditions across the central U.S. and extending all the way into the Mid-Atlantic region. And there's a little bit of that clash zone here, right here, where it shifts from colder than normal up to the north and west, warmer than normal down to the south and east. And here is the area where you could see some strong to severe thunderstorms later today and again later tomorrow. Now, we move forward in time, and it takes a little time here, but by the time we get to the early part of June, we kind of have a flip in the pattern here with above normal conditions. This is all the way out to days 9 to 13, which is June 4th to June 9th, where it currently is much below normal. It looks like we'll get much above normal conditions here as we roll into that first and second week in June throughout much of the eastern part of the U.S. and the southeastern part of Canada. We'll go out another couple of days here, and it generally looks like a warmer than normal pattern across much of the nation and Canada as we roll into that first, second, potentially even the third week of the month of June. Well, let's wrap up with the surface forecast maps from last night's 0Z run of the GFS. Kind of an interesting scenario for the Mid-Atlantic region where we'll have a low-pressure area forming right along the Mid-Atlantic coastline. Here we are towards the end of the month of May, and we're still dealing with kind of nor'easter type systems here. As we begin the day, cool Canadian high pressure dominates from the Great Lakes into the northeast, but low pressure is starting to move up the Ohio Valley, and rain will first move into D.C. and then overnight into Philadelphia, by tomorrow into New York City. And we will form low pressure right along the Mid-Atlantic coastline here by the time we get to early Wednesday. This will help to produce a cool onshore flow of air between the large high pressure system to the north, where winds flow clockwise, and this developing low pressure area, counterclockwise winds around that. We will have a long fetch of air blowing from the ocean into the land area here, and that will keep it quite cool on Wednesday. Places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, way below normal for this time of the year. Probably temperatures struggling to get out of the lower 60s. And the normal highs, places like D.C., are way up in the mid and upper 70s this time of the year. So we'll move forward a little bit. A beneficial rainfall on Wednesday into Wednesday night. Then we get into the day on Thursday. We'll have another system here we'll have to watch out. Could bring more beneficial rains into the eastern U.S. late this week, into the early part of the upcoming weekend. Here we go. By the time we get to Saturday, the last day of May, still cooler than normal throughout much of the east at this time. Then we go into the new month of June. It tends to look like it dries out and warms up throughout much of the eastern half of the nation as we progress through that first week of June. We'll go out another day or two, and here we go into 1 week from right now, Monday, and then finally Tuesday of next week. High pressure dominating the scene across the eastern U.S., and that will be accompanied by warmer conditions, highs at least 80 to 85 degrees by the time we get to Monday and Tuesday, places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. So that's it for now. Please pardon the congestion I have right now, but that's it for now. A lot of weather to talk about today. I'm Arcfield, weather.com meteorologist, Paul Dorian.